All right, podcast family. I know it's been a while since I've been on, focusing on getting the academy up and running. Haven't been competing, but oddly enough, I'm down here, Fort Worth, Texas, getting ready to compete tomorrow for NoGi PANs. I have two of my good friends here, Rich and Brandon, both here to compete as well too. 3 out of the 5 of our group of 5 of Asal and Jimmy will be flying in today and then tomorrow for their competition on Sunday. So while we got some time, wanted to sit down and talk about the commonality between the 3 of us is the Marine Corps and jiu-jitsu, but kind of talk about how jiu-jitsu has influenced our career inside, myself and Brandon, and then Rich on the outside, but also during his time in the Marine Corps. So without further ado, I'll have these guys introduce themselves.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Rich Fitzgerald. I'm a purple belt at COA. Started training about 5 years ago. My wife and I actually came in one day and we brought our kids in for a trial class, and they didn't like it at the time, or they didn't think it was their thing at the time or whatever. But we both said, well, we're gonna do it though, So, but so we love jiu-jitsu, and thanks for having us, man.
Absolutely. You guys may remember Rich. Rich and I did a podcast together on his podcast, Men Principle.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of talked about our role as men in the community, how jiu-jitsu has impacted that role as well too. So, Brandon.
All right, I'm Brandon. I'm a purple belt at COA as well. I started training jiu-jitsu back in October of 2014, and it was an inevitable transition from, when I trained judo as a kid.
So, yeah, where did you start training? Out in California, right?
Out in California.
Okay, nice.
And now I'm here.
Awesome.
Training.
So with that, Brandon, how do you think training jiu-jitsu has impacted your career in the Marine Corps, and then impacted you as a leader? Being in a leadership position, do you think it's changed like your leadership style over the years?
I think it's developed it a lot. You process problems a lot better. You're more calm about it because
yeah, for sure.
Getting choked and beat up all this time and nothing. I don't get it easily as flustered, and I'm able to process things, work things out, think about it, ask questions back, and kind of come up with a plan and a solution to any problem. So
do you see a difference in your Marines who train and don't train jiu-jitsu as well too?
You see a different mindset. Yeah. There's kind of similar things like, maybe this wasn't as bad as I initially thought. Able to take a breath, take a step back, and look at things.
That's true.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
How about you, Rich? As a enlisted an officer during the Marine Corps time, did you see a difference in your leadership style? Being around Marine Corps martial arts program and then being around jiu-jitsu as well too.
Yeah, for sure. So I was not introduced to jiu-jitsu until after I left active duty. Right, I was a reservist.
Mm-hmm.
So after I started jiu-jitsu, and then I was still in the reserves at the time. There was a couple guys that was in my reserve unit who trained grappling, jiu-jitsu, many different martial arts, and they have a different feel about them, a different aura, a different leadership style than those who maybe didn't come from that same background, right? Because their ability to deal with stress, And for me, including in my day job now, I'm still a government civilian for the Marine Corps. I just feel like most of my job is not that stressful anymore because of like what Brandon said, like guys aren't trying to choke me at work, So I'm not that stressed anymore, where maybe before, especially when I was like a brand new officer, right, a young lieutenant, I would let a lot of things stress me out. Where nowadays I'm just like, dude, it ain't that big a deal.
It could always be worse. I could be in bottom mount with, like one of the big guys, Tyler, Professor Kelly on top of the bottom out position, north-south choke, he's trying to sink that thing in.
Like it ain't worse than that.
Yeah, for sure. So talk about competition prep. So I know, Brandon, you and I alone have competed or gone to 2 or 3 different competitions this season, but you've been competing all the way since October last year was the first time you and I traveled to compete together. Talk about like your competition regimen when you're getting ready, and then what your mindset or focus is.
Prep. I'm just always trying to constantly train as much as I can and compete as often as I can. I just want to get more familiar and more comfortable with that, competition mindset setting, and I try to emulate that in training. You know, work out my game plans and my style, and try to just continuously to test it.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it. And I just try to do it as often as possible, and you know, I want to get that gold medal.
Not a lot of people talk about it. That's interesting. Like the difference, you know, I say sometimes you have like carefree roles when you're in the gym, right? When you're around your buddies, but when you go into a competition, man, I don't know what it is. It's just like, you know, being on the stage. Like sometimes you boil your game down into a very reserved game plan to like minimize mistakes. Do you see yourself kind of doing that in the difference between training and then stepping on the mats, or?
I'll try some things in class to kind of see if it works, if I can chain it with my main game, but it's one of those back pocket reserve things that I have that I know I can do, and if it comes up in the moment, then I'll do it.
Sure.
For the most part, what I do most of the time in the training room is what's reflected in competition.
That's fair. How about you, Rich? I know you and your wife both in Milan compete, you know, pretty routinely. You guys, you know, have like alternate training times where, hey, all right, this person's ramping up. You know, I got the home front, or you know, what's the balance there?
Yeah. So you know, like yourself, right? Got you know, a lot of family, a lot of dependents, right? So since both my wife and I train, we train every day, but yeah, typically in different classes. Every now and then we can get the same class together, you know. But yeah, when it comes to like our competition schedule, generally we don't compete at the same time. Just for us, it's very stressful, as you know, and so it's we usually just split, right? So I do one tournament, she does another. So she just did Master Worlds. I went out there and supported her, obviously, but then we had someone at the home front taking care of the kids for us, and then now I'm able to do NoGi PANs, and then I know we got a few other tournaments we're looking to do this year. But yeah, like competition, at least to what Brandon was saying a little bit earlier, like our preparation has been a little, at least for me, has been a little different this time around because we had diverse training partners and we weren't always in the same classes. So we tried out different classes. We went to your school a few times, went up to Vanguard a few times to train Christian. So we just had a lot of different looks, you know. And I know you and I talked a little bit about like our mindset before competition, which for me personally is probably my biggest hurdle. You know, isn't the physical stuff, it's the mental stuff, you know. So for me, it's just really getting myself mentally prepared more than anything, and making sure that I have a set strategy, but at the same time, not being too tense or too, you know, nervous in anticipation, because I think that kind of makes me too limited in my movement when I, you know, when I roll. So
absolutely,
yeah.
So Brandon, you mentioned the gold medal. So what's your goal? Obviously, everybody who trains and competes in jiu-jitsu is looking for either a, you know, world championship medal or ADCC, you know, gold medal. Which one do you prefer and why? Or is it both?
Well, I haven't competed under the ADCC rule set yet. It's something that, you know, hopefully in the future I do, and I like the journey there, and I want the rewards of the journey, and I think the gold medal is something that a person not in our space can see too, that shows, you know, everything that got there. I mean, it's like the belt in MMA. It shows that you've been there, you've done that, and here's evidence of it. So yeah, that's what I want.
That's a good point, man. All of us, you know, live and breathe jiu-jitsu day in, day out. But do you ever like find yourself trying to convey like the process or, you know, the feelings of jiu-jitsu to people not in the same space as we are? Or is it difficult, I should say, to explain it to them?
It's difficult to show it, because I think a lot of it you have to experience it, and there has to be some sort of experience to it, and then emotion connected to it, so they can, you know, actually understand it. I mean, I can explain the process or explain what I went through, until you really do it, it's kind of hard to convey it.
Yeah, that's fair. How about you, Rich? Long-term goals in jiu-jitsu, or is it just to stay on the mats as long as you can?
That's ultimately number one. Yeah, I want to train until I die, no matter what age that is. I'm just going to keep training. But of course, everyone wants to win, right? If you're a competitor, you want to win. You know? So Ultimately, a world championship would be fantastic. But one of my goals one day is to open up a school. So like I look up to you. Obviously, you just did that recently, right? And I think a great example that you're setting for your students, like I want to do one day for mine, is to be able to put yourself in that pressure-filled situation and show your students that you're willing to put it out there, regardless of the outcome. Obviously, your goal is to win, right? But being able to test yourself at the highest level. And like you said, like there's a lot of people, especially like in my civilian job, they don't understand at all what we do, especially at our ages, right? It's not like they look at it like, oh yeah, well I used to be athletic when I was 15. It's like, well, that's good. I'm still trying to do that, And so yeah, ultimately I would love to win a world championship, but even more so, I just want to continue to improve upon myself. Obviously, we're in a unique scenario when we compete, right? Because we see the results, like the fruits of our labor. We think is that medal, which means that we beat the person across the mat from us. But in my opinion, at least from how I look at it, it's an indication that I beat myself, right? I improved upon myself, who I was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, whatever. And so, I competed a little less than a year ago in a different event, and I was not successful, but I used that as fuel. And I just been, training hard, grinding, and really focusing on what my gaps are in my game. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the outcome is this weekend. Not necessarily their outcome as to like if I beat the guy across me, but have I improved that much better since then? And I think if I do, I will end up beating most of the people who I go up against.
That's a very good point, man. You and I were talking about this. I think all the way up until purple belt, to me, jiu-jitsu competitions were easy. I relied on like my athleticism. I relied on my wrestling background a lot. But later years of purple, when I put on the brown belt, man, it was like straight jiu-jitsu. That's the first time I realized like, hey, you can't just survive off of your athleticism, your speed, your strength. Your jiu-jitsu game has to get a lot better, man. And definitely, my first tournament as a black belt, I was like, man, I'm not ready. I was in Vegas. Fredson had just promoted me, competing in black belt the same weekend, man. I'm not ready. He's like, man, bro, just go out there and train, just like you're in the match. I was like, yeah, you're right. Go out there and train. It didn't go my way that first tournament, man. I lost first match, gi. Actually won the first match, no gi. Lost first match in gi, but I was like, nerves were all over the place, man. Mm-hmm. Definitely like winning or beating yourself and stepping out on the mat. A lot of people will train jiu-jitsu and never compete. Nothing wrong with that. But I think if you're able to overcome like the nervousness and all the anxiety of being able to step on the mat and compete, definitely as you continue to go on, it gets better. Fredson would always joke about your first match isn't when you get on the match. Your first match is actually on a scale. And if you lose to the scale, you never see the match. So I'm definitely grateful that I've been able to continue to train this far. Definitely grateful I've been able to open up the academy. And like you said, set the example. One of my students is competing down in Virginia Beach this weekend. I was hoping to be able to be there, but I looked at the time for NoGi PANs. I'm like, Jock, I gotta go. NoGi PANs, bro. I want to be there for you, but I have been training for this for a minute. So for you guys, first time in Fort Worth, Texas, right?
Yeah.
First time in Texas all together for you, Rich.
Texas for me, yeah.
First time in Fort Worth. Brandon, what were your expectations of Texas? Did you expect to see miles and miles of farmland and nothing cowboy hats, or?
Yeah, I was at. I've been to Dallas, Fort Worth, but just the airport.
Oh, that's right. Passing through.
Connecting,
yeah.
But no, this is the first time outside the airport and actually check out the city, and I like it. It's good. Hope to explore it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
See what they have to offer and soak in the culture over here.
Mm-hmm.
Rich,
definitely
good. Yeah.
Vibe.
I bet you, Rich.
Yeah.
Got the cowboy hat yesterday, man.
Yeah, I should have pulled it out.
Starting to blend in.
Got the cowboy hat already. I'm ready to go to rodeo. I like it so far. I mean, we obviously had a great Mexican meal yesterday.
Yeah.
Me and Brandon came back from getting another one. By the time we leave here, we might be able to claim a little bit of a Mexican heritage on the 23andMe or something. I don't know. We get so much Mexican food in us, but it's good because I think we're both underweight, so we're able to eat a little better, eat a little more quantity of food before we compete on Sunday.
Not as scarce.
Yeah. So far it's been fun. I think we're talking about maybe going and checking out some of the sites. We accidentally drove to the place earlier today.
Stockyards, yeah.
The Stockyards.
Downtown Fort Worth.
Kind of like, the Alamo type place,
Yeah.
old school, buildings from a couple hundred years ago and train station stuff. So it looks pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it.
So Brandon, you're competing next weekend too in Charlotte. Let's talk through like the mindset of going back to back, tournament to tournament.
Treat it like another training session
Yeah.
and all that. I want to be as I don't want to feel rusty. I don't want to feel extra nervous. I mean, the only way I think to calm or control those nerves is to do it as often as possible. So yeah, just doing that.
What aspects of your game have you seen grow within the last year? So October last year we did the Charleston Open together, and you've been on a rampage of competing. What do you see has improved, and where do you see where you can still make some improvements in your game?
It can be the same answer could be both for it, but it's pulling the trigger and just going.
Yeah, not hesitating.
So I very first ones after getting back into the competition scene is just I wasn't pulling the trigger right away. I wasn't believing in myself to just go, and the more tournaments that I was doing, the more I got comfortable with it, the more I pulled the trigger. Of course, still struggle with that a little bit. A little hesitant in some of the things, different looks, different styles, different pressure from different opponents. Of course, affects the flow of the match, and just want to get out there and keep on pulling the trigger, work on it. Something that I want to work on is blending the wrestling in with my judo, and yeah.
Did you compete as much in judo as you do now in jiu-jitsu? I know you.
I did.
How long did you train judo?
I started when I was 10, and then stopped after joining the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Competed fairly often. Totally different mindset and rule set for it, and
And the gi is still beneficial, though, the grips and the connection for your takedowns. Yeah, I roll with you a lot of times, and there's times where you've caught me in some decent positions for throws on the feet in the gi, man. So
it definitely is more familiar to do that, but I want to kind of get away from that because my main throw, shoulder throw from in the gi, say a nogi, it doesn't translate very well into nogi, and I want to not be so reliant on it, and I want to incorporate more of the wrestling into it because.
Yeah, you missed the seonagi and no-gi, you're getting your back taped. They're just going to jump on your back.
It's possible to do it. There's ways to get around it. Yeah. You have to be in a very particular position. I can't overcommit. I have to kind of do a half entry to it and catch the angle to actually really get it, but I won't have as much power explosiveness off it.
Rich, how about you? It's been a little longer time in between the last time you competed, but what have you seen as far as improvements, and then where do you still see growth in your game?
Yeah, so I know I've grown since then in a few different areas, but I would say mostly from my guard, being able to sweep and submit more from my guard.
Okay.
The thing that I want to work on the most, and the reason I'm competing and I want to continue to compete is, like I said earlier, just kind of getting over the nerves and the anxiousness. Because I firmly believe if I can take away the mental fog and get some clarity, and translate how I train in the training room to the mat and competition, that I'll have a lot better success. I tell Brandon all the time, it's like, man, I've got a lot of second and third place medals, but that first one just it eludes me, man, So I look forward to getting over that hump. It's just a mental thing for me.
What do you think it is, man? Because a lot of people, I mean, there's times where I go back and forth with the same issue, man. Like, I say it's careless rolling in the mat room, but as soon as you step on the blue and yellow, man, for me, it's like I minimize some of my aspects of my game so that I'm not opening up,
So I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a lot of variables, right? But so something I told my wife a few weeks ago after she lost her match at Master Worlds was, it's you don't want to say it at the time or you don't want to hear it at the time, but like you almost got to be thankful for those times once you lose, because that individual at that point in time showed you something that obviously you hadn't seen or you hadn't fixed in your game up until then.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you got to be thankful for that person exposing that gap to you, because what if you would have went through and, you know, won 3, 4, 5 matches, won gold because you didn't get that person, right? So for me, the only way I can be truly honest with myself is just to say, well, no matter what I felt, that person was better than me at that day, on that day.
Yeah.
So that they exposed a gap in my game. So my last tournament, man, like I caught in a great triangle, and I've worked on great triangle escapes since then. And I've done it against very good people, and if I said their names, you would know who they are, but like it's only in the training room, so it really doesn't matter. What matters is the competition. Now, I don't want to even get in the triangle position in the competition.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Just don't get there.
Yeah.
But if it happens, I have that much more confidence now that I can get out, which gives me more confidence that I'm going to be able to be successful.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a long way to answer the question, I guess. But
No, that's good.
yeah,
That's good
for me,
point.
it's just, you know, closing those gaps. And so each time I close a gap, the more confident I am I'm going to win the next one.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's fair. That's fair. How about you, Brandon? I mean, the mental aspect, you see, like, or can you tell, like, draw any correlation to how you're able to be in a better mental state or not going into a competition?
Same, kind of the same thing. Like, I mean, I got to do it more often to get comfortable with it and realize, you know, at the end of the day, it's a competition. It's not that bad and all that. I mean, go out there, do it. I giving myself more opportunities to pull the trigger. That's how it is for me.
So, Rich, you talked about one of your long-term goals being opening a jiu-jitsu academy.
Yep.
You got a location, or you got like a time frame, 5-year, 10-year plan in place?
Timeline is still, you know, we're still a couple years away from that, I think. Only because, you know, with the massive growth of jiu-jitsu, there's a certain point in time in which I would feel most comfortable doing it, you know, regarding my credibility in the art. Location, still to be determined. You know, we're from Florida. We think a lot about moving back there. But there's a lot of places we'd love to live for the seasons and everything, but obviously having the full-time job, I need to make that transition appropriately.
Sure.
And so we know it'll probably be someplace warm because my wife hates the cold.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And, you know, some place in which we're probably close to water. You know, that's what we know. So probably somewhere in the southeast United States.
Sounds like Southeast Coast to me,
yeah,
bro.
You know, somewhere down there. But it's still up in the air, to be honest, you know. So, yeah.
Talk about, so for you, you know, having the kids train jiu-jitsu, train Muay Thai, talk about what the difference you've seen in your kids, like, training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. So, like I said, the reason my wife and I first started training was because we took them to trial classes. They didn't want to start at the time. But eventually, when we went to Okinawa for a couple of years, we got them back involved again. They decided to keep going with it. My oldest son decided to just do Muay Thai. My middle son does both jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. So starting first with Nathan, my middle son, man, like I've just seen him get so much mentally and physically tougher because he's the nicest, most sensitive kid ever. Like and sometimes he's almost so nice it bothers me. I'm like, dude, my son is overly emotional, but it's a good thing. Like the kid has such a big heart. Like he got it from his mom for sure. So it's made him physically, mentally tougher. And I mean, I can't even I can't fully express to you how big of a change he's made because like the first probably 2 months on the mat, every day he was crying, you know? And all I would tell him was like, just come back and try again. That's all I would tell him. Like, I don't care how well you do. I don't care if you never get a submission. Just come back and try again, you know? I just wanted him to know that I support him and I love him and care about him. And at the same time, like I want you to keep testing yourself and challenging yourself and you will get through it, you know? My oldest son, Richard does Muay Thai. And he has fun, man. Like, and that's all I could really ask. You know, he's on the spectrum. You know, I'm not getting too personal, but you know, a lot of people know he's on the spectrum. And just having him be social with his friends and knowing he can practice Muay Thai in a safe environment in which his friends take care of him. But I've also seen him grow in the sense of like he's being more selfless and helping his friends too. So
Oh,
watching
that's
them go
awesome.
back and forth, it truly is probably the most rewarding thing about martial arts for me right now.
I agree.
Isn't just my own personal development, because as a Marine, right, it's one of our principles, like, know yourself and see self-improvement.
Yeah.
Like, we are always seeking self-improvement. So it's ingrained in us. It's not ingrained in my kids yet.
Yeah.
So just to watch them do that on a weekly basis, it's huge for me. It's probably the thing that makes me more emotional when I think about how blessed we are and what we do than anything else.
No, I can't agree more. Now running my own academy, by nature, my kids are there training more. So just watching the growth between the last couple months and before they, both of them started around age 3. My oldest, Raven, is about to be 10 in November. Robin will be 7 next March. But they both started around age 3. And to see in the last 3 months since I've been open, the growth in their game, I'm like, wow, man. And the same thing, the mental clarity, watching them work through and make better decisions, having more resolve when it comes to like things at school, outside of, off of the mats, man. I can't ask for more for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Parents, get your kids on the mat, train in jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
You'll always hear a jiu-jitsu practitioner say, you need to be trained in jiu-jitsu, man. It's hard to explain. I relate it to religion. I have an uncle that's a pastor down in Jacksonville, Florida. I tell him all the time, man, I understand now, the struggle you have with telling people, bringing them to the word, man. Like, you can't explain jiu-jitsu to somebody until they get on the mats and experience it themselves. Same thing with, the faith, man. Like, until you have that revelation or that experience, like, you can't explain that to anybody, man. You can read the Bible, but until you have that experience, man, it's like none other.
And with that, I'll say, parents who get your kids in jiu-jitsu, don't criticize them unless you also train. Let the coaches do their job.
Very true.
Yeah.
No, very true. Very true. Yeah. Brandon, how about you? Any aspirations to open up an academy down the road? I know you still got some time in the gun club, man.
Still got some time. Just crossed that 10-year mark. So
Nice.
Halfway there, I guess.
All right.
No aspirations to open up a gym. I think I do better as a number 2.
Take the Gordon Ryan approach. Just make a ton of money being a student at jiu-jitsu. Him and Buchecha, like the most successful or highest paid jiu-jitsu practitioners, but neither one of them own or run a gym, right?
No aspirations at this moment to do it.
That's fair.
Teaching jiu-jitsu is a whole different skill.
Yeah.
And it's something that I haven't delved into as much. I can show a technique here and there to a friend, but like controlling and running a class, explaining sequences and develop a curriculum and all that, and then managing the whole business side of it. I haven't delved into that yet. I think my place is more of adding to the training partners and the environment of that.
Giving value. That's fair.
That's where I see myself.
That's good. Good approach, man. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap up. Well, fellas, good luck to you guys on Sunday, and I'm going to rest up for tomorrow. But thanks again for taking the time to do the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.